all the big changes in Washington this week are in government. A new interim president took over at Gallaudet University after a year of campus protests. Gallaudet is the only university specifically designed to accommodate deaf and hard of hearing students. But it went 124 years without a deaf president. That finally changed in 1988, but not without a fight. When the Gallaudet Board of Trustees selected yet another hearing president, that year, students, faculty, and alumni revolted and formed a movement called Deaf President Now. It worked, and Gallaudet soon had its first deaf president, I. King Jordan.
I am thrilled to accept the invitation of the Board of Trustees to become the president of Gallaudet University.
That 1988 victory has never been forgotten on the Gallaudet campus, and it took on new significance last spring when the time came to choose a successor to Jordan. The trustees selected Gallaudet's provost, Jane Fernandez. She was not a popular selection. The reason why is a matter of dispute. Fernandez is deaf, but she had a different background from many members of the Gallaudet community.
I had attended a public school, not a school for the deaf. I had gone to a college other than one that was for deaf people, and I didn't learn to sign and really meet deaf people who did sign until I was 23 years of age. So my immersion into American Sign Language and culture came later in my life.
Some Fernandez supporters claim she simply wasn't deaf enough for her campus critics. Her critics denied that. They argued that Fernandez was an autocratic provost, insufficiently supportive of students or faculty.
She does not have a relationship with the Gallaudet community in general. She keeps herself hidden.
Whatever the motivation, campus protests began almost immediately. At times, Gallaudet was virtually shut down.
All of the many different things that we do on campus ground to a halt for a week. We can't allow that to happen.
More than 130 protesters were arrested, but in the end, they got their way. In October, the trustees backed down, and Fernandez was out.
I knew we would win, but the question was when. Today, I'm absolutely elated it's today.
Gallaudet's best-known trustee, Senator John McCain, resigned from the board in protest, but the decision to drop Fernandez stood. On December 10th, Dr. Robert Davila, a 1953 Gallaudet graduate, was named interim president. He began work Tuesday. And joining us now from Washington, Gallaudet University interim president, Dr. Bob Davila. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Dr. Davila, and I want to begin by asking you, how do you plan to restore harmony on the Gallaudet campus?
When I was appointed president,